0300 hours. The Persian Gulf. The surface of the water is black and still. The kind of silence that exists only in the minutes before something irreversible happens. Aboard the USS Carney, a destroyer running dark under full emission control 40 nautical miles off the Iranian coastline, the vertical launch system covers are already open. The first Tomahawk cruise missile detonates out of its cell with a sound like a thunderclap in a concrete room. The booster burns for 4 seconds. Then, it falls away. The turbofan engine ignites, the wings unfold, and the missile drops to 60 feet above the Gulf surface and disappears into the darkness at 550 miles per hour. 3 seconds later, the next cell fires. Then the next. Then the next. 8 Tomahawks are airborne in under 90 seconds, each one already flying a different pre-programmed terrain-following route toward the Zagros mountain range. 300 nautical miles to the northwest, additional destroyers in the task force are running the same sequence. The math is simple. Iran is about to receive a coordinated salvo from multiple directions simultaneously. There will be no warning. There will be no second chance. But here is what makes this strike different from every other missile attack in the history of modern warfare. The Tomahawks are not flying blind. They know exactly where they are going, down to the individual tunnel bay inside a mountain complex that Iran spent 15 years and $4 billion building. And the reason they know is a secret that has been buried inside Iran's most secure military base for the past 8 months. Iran had no idea. They never will. Deep inside the Natanz Plateau region, the IRGC's most prized strategic asset is a facility its commanders call the City of Missiles. Buried under 300 feet of compacted granite and reinforced concrete, this subterranean complex houses Iran's mobile ballistic missile launchers, its Khaybar-Sheikhan medium-range systems, and the transporter erector launchers that represent the true backbone of its deterrence strategy. For years, Iranian military leadership has pointed to this facility as the ultimate argument against any American or Israeli military action. You cannot hit what you cannot find. You cannot destroy what you cannot see. The mountain does not care about your satellites. This is what they believed. This is what they told each other. This is what they were catastrophically wrong about. 8 months before the first Tomahawk left its cell, a team of deep cover operatives working under a joint intelligence operation had infiltrated the maintenance contractor network that services the underground facility. The operation was not spectacular. There were no gunfights, no dramatic extractions, just patience and precision over months of careful positioning. The objective was not intelligence gathering. The objective was physical access to the chassis of the IRGC's heavy transporter erector launchers sitting in their hardened tunnel bays. Each operative carried components that individually looked like nothing. Assembled, they formed a device the size of a matchbox, with a passive GPS beacon and a dormant radio transmitter that would remain completely inert and undetectable until triggered by a specific encrypted satellite signal. By the time the last device was in place, every single high-value launcher inside the mountain complex was broadcasting its precise coordinates to a receiver that did not yet exist in the sky above it. The air gap that Iran's commanders boasted about, that physical separation from the outside world they believed made their facility invisible, was meaningless. The enemy was already inside the walls. It is like hiding everything you own in a safe that you are convinced no one can open, except someone has already glued a tracking chip to every item inside it and is waiting for the moment you need to move them. 0308 hours. The encrypted trigger signal goes out from a satellite relay station. It takes 40 milliseconds to reach the dormant beacons inside the mountain. The beacons wake up, they begin pulsing. And a signals intelligence satellite repositioned over the Zagros range 3 weeks earlier begins receiving a stream of precise GPS coordinates for targets that have never before appeared on any targeting map. On the tactical displays aboard the USS Carney and the USS Cole, objects that were previously labeled as probable underground positions suddenly resolve into precise grid references. The massive missile launchers hidden inside reinforced tunnel bays for years, considered by Iranian commanders to be the ultimate trump card, are now glowing green waypoints on an American targeting screen. They are no longer a fortress. They are a list. Iran still does not know any of this is happening. Inside the Zagros complex, the night shift commander is reviewing routine maintenance logs. His radar screens show nothing unusual. His perimeter sensors are nominal. His air defense network is reporting clear skies. He is about to make a decision that will destroy everything he has spent his career protecting, and he will make it because someone will tell him to, using his own communication systems, in his own command language, with his own authentication codes. 0312 hours. 2 Israeli Air Force F-15I Ra'am strike aircraft are crossing the Iraqi border at low altitude under strict emission control. They are not carrying bombs tonight. They are carrying Rampage supersonic air-to-ground missiles with kinetic penetrator warheads, and they are not targeting the launchers or the tunnel entrances. They are targeting something far more specific and far more devastating. The Zagros complex runs on a dedicated high-voltage power grid fed by a network of transformer substations built into the mountain approaches. These substations are not hardened. They were never considered a target because the complex's existence was never supposed to be known. The F-15 is reached their release points. The Rampage missiles separate from the pylons and accelerate to Mach 2.5. They do not need to enter Iranian airspace to reach the substations. The warheads strike the transformer nodes in a sequence timed to cascade. The first substation detonates in a blinding white flash, then the second, then the third. Inside the mountain complex, every light goes out simultaneously. The fiber optic command and control network that connects the underground control rooms to the surface air defense batteries goes dead. The screens in the night shift commander's operations room go black. For 11 seconds, the facility is completely blind. The backup generators kick in automatically. These are industrial-grade diesel units buried in secondary shafts, designed to sustain the facility's critical systems through exactly this kind of attack. They power up with a deep mechanical roar, and as they do, they begin venting superheated exhaust through shafts that exit on the mountain's eastern face. In the freezing air of the pre-dawn mountain range, that exhaust is not invisible to the long-range infrared sensors aboard an Israeli Gulfstream G-550 Shavit airborne early warning aircraft orbiting at 40,000 feet on the Iraqi side of the border. The exhaust vents light up like signal flares, bright, hot, precisely located, and continuously updating as the generators run. The facility that was hidden inside a mountain is now radiating its exact internal layout in infrared. The ghosts in the granite are glowing, and the Tomahawks that left the USS Carney 17 minutes ago are already past the coastline and threading through the mountain valleys at 500 feet altitude. Their terrain-following guidance systems receiving continuous updates from the satellite overhead. The night shift commander is now on an emergency backup radio line trying to reach surface command. He is requesting a status report on the air defense network. He is not getting one because the air defense network is also on backup power and is running a mandatory system restart sequence that takes 4 minutes and 20 seconds. He has a decision to make, and he has to make it right now. His standing orders for a power loss event are clear. Move the launchers to hardened depot sectors for protective dispersal. The logic is sound. If the facility is under attack, stationary targets inside tunnels are more vulnerable than mobile targets moving through dispersal routes. He gives the order. The hydraulic systems on the mobile launchers begin cycling. Engines start. Tunnel bay doors open. And the vehicles that have been sitting in their hidden positions for months begin rolling out of the mountain onto the exposed plateau roads. They have no idea that every single one of them is carrying a beacon that is transmitting their position in real time. They have no idea that the Shavit aircraft above them is tracking each vehicle with radar and infrared simultaneously. And they have no idea that they have just driven themselves out of the only protection they had and into a completely open kill zone. Now comes the piece of this operation that crosses from military doctrine into something closer to psychological surgery. 0318 hours. From a secure airborne relay node orbiting over the Jordanian border, a cyber warfare team that has been embedded in the operation for 6 weeks initiates what the mission brief calls the red code injection. Over the previous 3 months, the team had been quietly mapping the authentication protocols of the IRGC's satellite-fed command uplink, the system that delivers encrypted operational orders from strategic command to the bunker. They did not break the encryption. They did something far more elegant. They identified the formatting signature, the header structure, the authentication handshake that makes a message look legitimate to any terminal receiving it. Using a purpose-built signal injection platform aboard the relay aircraft, they push a fabricated command packet into the uplink stream. It is perfectly formatted. The authentication codes are valid. The message reads as a high-priority directive from Strategic Command. The content is simple and specific. Immediate systemic anomaly detected in mobile launcher fuel management systems. All TEL units cease current operations. Initiate emergency shutdown protocol. Proceed to secondary maintenance staging areas via Route 7 and Route 11 for technical inspection. Inside the bunker control rooms, the message appears on every terminal simultaneously with a crimson priority header. The operators have been trained for years to respond to authenticated emergency directives without delay. Questioning a verified command from Strategic Command is not part of the protocol. It is not part of the culture. The order is obeyed instantly. Units that were already moving toward dispersal routes now redirect toward the secondary staging areas specified in the fabricated message. They are driving in organized columns along exactly the routes the Shavit aircraft is watching. Organized, sequential, perfectly spaced for targeting. The Iranian commanders have not been outgunned. They have been turned into the instrument of their own destruction, using nothing but their own obedience. Above the mountain range, the Shavit is feeding a real-time targeting picture through an encrypted Link 16 bridge directly into the weapon systems of 4 B-1B Lancer bombers that have been holding a racetrack orbit over the Iraqi border for the past 2 hours. The B-1B crews do not need their own radar. They are flying dark. On their flight displays, the targeting data from the Shavit appears as crisp green acquisition boxes around every vehicle moving on the plateau roads below. This is the operational concept that no other military on Earth has demonstrated at this scale. Israeli sensors providing real-time fire control data to American strike aircraft, executing a joint precision attack on a target neither platform could have found alone. The look of one, the punch of the other. Operating as a single system across a border neither aircraft has crossed. The B-1B weapon bay doors slide open at 0331 hours. Each aircraft releases a sequenced salvo of GBU-31 Joint Direct Attack munitions. 2,000 pounds of steel and high explosive guided by GPS coordinates that are updating every 3 seconds from the satellite overhead. The JDAMs do not fall randomly. They follow the beacon signals. They follow the infrared returns. They follow the targeting boxes on the Shavit's display. On the plateau roads below the Zagros range, the vehicles that were tricked into leaving their protected positions are destroyed in a series of precisely timed detonations that walk down the convoy routes in sequence. The resulting rock slides from the mountain faces above the tunnel exits collapse the access roads. The vehicles that did not make it out of the tunnels in time are now sealed inside by thousands of tons of rubble. The city of missiles has become a tomb, and its occupants helped lock the door. 0415 hours. In Tehran, IRGC Command is attempting to reconstruct what just happened. Their communications network is fragmented. Their satellite uplink is giving contradictory status reports because the red code injection is still running, continuing to push corrupted diagnostic data into the system, even as operators try to regain control. The picture they are assembling is incomplete and in several critical respects deliberately wrong. What they know is that the Zagros facility has taken catastrophic damage. What they do not know yet is how. The beacon devices will never be found because there is nothing left at those coordinates to search. The response they order is the only move left in the playbook. Every remaining coastal cruise missile, battery, and fast attack naval unit in the Gulf receives a simultaneous fire order. This is the swarm tactic that Iran has spent 2 decades and billions of dollars developing. The doctrine that says, if you cannot win with precision, you win with volume. Dozens of anti-ship missiles leave their rails within seconds of each other. They are aimed at the USS Carney and the USS Cole. The IRGC commanders watching from their hardened coastal positions believe this is where the American advantage ends. They believe that no system can track and intercept this many simultaneous threats. They have been running this calculation for years, and they are confident in the arithmetic. The arithmetic is wrong by a factor they have never measured because they have never faced the Aegis Baseline 10 combat system, operating with SPY-6 radar data fused with targeting tracks from the Shavit still overhead and the Air Defense Coordination Network that connects every ship in the task force into a single integrated engagement picture. The USS Carney and USS Cole do not engage individually. They engage as nodes in a system that is already tracking every inbound missile before the Iranian operators have finished entering the fire commands. The SM-3 Block IIA interceptors handle the high trajectory threats at altitude. The SM-6 handles the mid-tier. The evolved Sea Sparrow handles the low fast movers. And for anything that gets through all three layers, the Helios high-energy laser system mounted on the Carney's superstructure engages with a directed energy beam that cuts through the airframe of a cruise missile, the way a blowtorch cuts through aluminum foil. There is no reload time for a laser. There is no magazine limit. There is no countermeasure a cruise missile can execute against a beam that travels at the speed of light. Not one Iranian missile reaches a ship. The swarm that was supposed to overwhelm the American defensive perimeter and salvage something from a collapsing operation is dismantled in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. The radar picture goes from saturated with threat tracks to completely clear. The Gulf surface is quiet, except for the burning debris of intercepted missiles drifting on the current. From a long-range reconnaissance sensor platform orbiting near the Syrian coast, American analysts watched 2 Russian Air Force Tu-95 Bear aircraft that had been orbiting the theater at high altitude execute a slow turn to the north. They have been watching the engagement data. They have seen the outcome. They are leaving without comment. In the underground operations center beneath Tehran, the IRGC aerospace commander is staring at a damage assessment that accounts for 80% of Iran's mobile ballistic missile capability destroyed or permanently inaccessible. The coastal battery network has expended its ready inventory against an intercept grid that swatted it aside without breaking a sweat. The deterrence architecture that took 15 years and tens of billions of dollars to construct has been neutralized in a single 4-hour operation. And the method by which it was located and targeted is completely unknown to them. They will spend years looking for the breach. They will never find it in time to matter. On the USS Carney, the VLS reload crew is already assessing remaining magazine depth. The ship did not change course during the entire engagement. Flight operations on the carrier group continue without interruption. A liaison signal goes out to Fleet Command. 6 lines of factual reporting. No adjectives. Now let's talk about what this actually represents, because the dollar figures alone tell a story that is almost impossible to overstate. Iran invested somewhere between $12 and $15 billion in the Zagros facility over the course of its construction and stocking. The mobile launcher fleet that was destroyed represents roughly 60% of Iran's medium-range strike capability. Assets that take 7 to 10 years to replace under normal industrial production rates, and that are currently subject to international sanctions that make replacement components extraordinarily difficult to source. The operational cost of the strike that destroyed it, factoring in the missiles expended, the aircraft sortie costs, and the intelligence operation that preceded it, is estimated at under $400 million. That is a force multiplication ratio that no conventional military operation in history has matched. Iran spent 15 years and $15 billion building a fortress. It was dismantled in 4 hours for $400 million. The return on investment for the coalition is not a financial metric. It is a strategic reality that will define the balance of power in this region for the next decade. The deeper lesson is not about the weapons. It is about the architecture that made the weapons work. The beacons that located the launchers required human intelligence and patience, not technology. The power grid strike that blinded the facility required precise target intelligence gathered over months. The red code injection that tricked Iranian operators into driving their vehicles into the open required a deep understanding of the IRGC's command culture and communication protocols. The Shavit providing real-time targeting data to B-1B bombers required years of interoperability development between 2 air forces operating under completely different command structures. And the layered missile defense that stopped the retaliatory swarm required a decade of Aegis upgrades, sensor integration, and doctrine refinement. None of this was improvised. All of it was built deliberately, quietly, and far in advance of the night it was needed. That is the real weapon. Not the tomahawk, not the JDAM, not the laser. The weapon is the system that connected all of them and ran faster than any adversary could respond to, adapt to, or even fully understand. If you want to understand how these operations actually work, the technology underneath them, and the doctrine that drives them, subscribe. We break this down in detail because the version you see in headlines is never the whole story. And drop your answer in the comments. If Iran rebuilds and comes back with twice the volume, does the coalition hold the same advantage? The answer is more complicated than a yes or no, and it is worth understanding. The scenario described in this video is a technical and tactical analysis based on real military assets, documented defense capabilities, and regional tensions. The specific operational sequences are hypothetical dramatizations created to illustrate coalition military doctrine and integrated strike capabilities.